Alright, what's up everyone? This is Lo-Fi, and thank you for checking out my video first and foremost. Basically, we are on day 5, or the final day of, or day 6, whatever, the final day of the Season 5 PTR for Diablo 4. I've been spending the majority of my time messing with this Andariel's Puncture Flurry Rogue, which I think is going to be an S+ tier build. And I just wanted to go over what I thought stood out and what changes make this build go from a lower tier all the way up to an S, maybe S+. And then, yeah, I just wanted to share my take on it. So first and foremost, we got Andariel's Visage on the helmet slot. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, it's an uber unique. It's so hard to get. It's really not anymore, guys. I'm not a full-time streamer. I don't sit here and grind for 6-8 hours a day trying to get these items. And I got materials might drop in the season PTR, not even in the season. This is from the PTR. So, yeah, I went from preseason all the way up to season 4 without seeing an uber unique, and then in season 4, I've had 5 drops so far. So the drops have increased significantly. They're going to increase even more, and then you're going to be able to gamble them and get them from other sources as well in season 5. So they are very obtainable now. The reason for that being is probably, in my opinion, because they're not as ideal as some of these other items with legendary aspects and tempered affixes. So now they're dropping more often. So with this particular build, Andariel Visage is a must. That Poison Nova is huge. The biggest change that they've done to this, besides the increased damage, is now instead of spawning around you, your character, it spawns at the target. So when you throw those puncture blades or you shoot Heartseeker, whatever, you're going to, when you trigger this Poison Nova, it's going to be around that mob of monsters. So huge change and a huge improvement on that. On the armor, you're going to want to, the biggest thing here, you're going to want to look for ranks of Dark Shroud, because you're going to be really limited on the points that you have, because you got to put a little bit here, a little bit there to make this build really work. So you don't want to invest hard points, so get points of Dark Shroud. If you can get a greater affix on that, that would be great. This one just happened to drop for me with armor and deck, so I took it, and then I rolled forever to get the Dark Shroud, but there it is. It's a decent piece of armor. As far as the tempered affixes, you're going to do additional armor or max life wherever you're struggling, whatever you might need for the defensive. And then for the lucky hit, crowd control, I would choose slow on most pieces, and the reason for that is because slow can apply to bosses. Unlike freeze, unlike many forms of crowd control, slow does apply to bosses. So the chance to slow wherever you can get it is a good way to go. Aspect is might. You can put Umbros here, might on the pants, whichever, but might is what I have on here. For the gloves, you have right now, I have attack speed as a must. You definitely need attack speed and lucky hit chance. Right now, I have resist all elements. Probably a good bet for most people because you're going to need the resistance. As far as the temper affixes, you're going to go damage to crowd control for one. That is going to synergize nice with your close combat or close quarters key passive. And yeah, basically, on most pieces you're gonna have damage to crowd control. Again, I would optimally want chance to slow on here. Chance to stun is good, especially for other mobs, non-boss mobs, even elites. Chance to stun is good. Chance to immobilize, any crowd control is good, but my preference would be go chance for slow, because one of the areas that this build was lacking in before was single target damage, and if you do the chance to slow, that's going to apply to your bosses, which then in turn will trigger all of these damage to crowd control temper affixes to work. So Traditionally, you would need Chance to Freeze as well for Noxious Ice to work, but I'll get into why you don't need that anymore in a moment. So on the pants, I probably don't need the 3 points to Puncture, but Armor, Max Life, Dexterity, whatever affixes you need on the pants themselves. As far as Temper, again, either Max Life or Armor, and then Chance to Slow again. For the aspects on both the gloves and the pants here, the gloves, right now I'm toying with Bursting Venoms. It seems to be synergizing quite well. So far, so good with that. And then Umbros for sure on the pants or the chest, whichever one you need that for Dark Shroud. Dark Shroud is super important. Gotta have it, and you don't want to take up a slot on your skill bar. Onto the boots, you have Noxious Ice, and that is pretty much one of the huge multipliers for this build. So I'll get into that in a second. But first, you're going to have Max Life, Armor, Movement Speed, or whatever else you need. The one that you want to focus on, obviously, is Movement Speed. You want to temper on Movement Speed, and then again, Chance to Slow. So it applies to bosses. You could also go for Chance to Immobilize, Chance to Stun, whatever you want to go for. Personally, I choose Chance to Slow because it applies to bosses as well. Onto the bow, Dex, Max Life, Damage over time. That's going to be pretty much the stuff on all of your weapons. Those are the 3 affixes you're going to be looking for. And then for the Temper affixes, same thing across all 3 weapons. Damage to crowd control enemies, Chance to for Puncture to cast twice, all 3 of these. As far as the affixes go, you're going to have Encircling Blades on the bow, Pestilent Points on the dagger, and then Rapid on the other dagger. That's just what I'm using. You can obviously mix them up if you like the faster attack speed and you're not leaning in the Flurry as much. You can switch them around, whatever you want to do. So on this ring, I'm using Elements, and as far as affixes, I need more resistance personally. Definitely Lucky Hit Chance. Again, Lucky Hit Chance here, Lucky Hit Chance. Lucky Hit Chance everywhere you can get it. The only place that you're not going to get it in a slot that you can is your helmet, because you're using Andariel's. So as far as the tempered affixes, damage to crowd control or damage per Dark Shroud Shadow. So you can do that on the rings. You want to do a lot of damage to crowd control because, again, your close quarters combat key passive says while both attack speed bonuses are active, if you can read the first half, you deal increased damage equal to 10% multiplicative of your damage versus crowd control enemy. So of your damaged crowd controlled enemies. Excuse me. That being said, I haven't done enough testing to tell you if it's better to do damage per Dark Shroud Shadow or crowd control, but crowd control has been working well for me. I do have the damage per Dark Shroud Shadow on one of the rings. My guess is it's probably going to be damage versus damage per Dark Shroud on the rings, and then these are damage versus crowd control. As far as the affix here, this is one of the new cool affixes that I like. It is Cold Clip, which says your basic skills are always cold imbued. You deal 19% up to 20% increased multiplicative damage to enemies who are chilled or frozen. And back to me saying that you don't need to add frozen, that's why. You're going to have that on here. And then, yeah, before I go over to the skills real quick, as far as the amulet goes, you want Lucky Hit Chance, obviously, Frigid Finesse, as many points as you can get, Max Life or Movement Speed or Total Dexterity, whatever you want to put up there. And then Movement Speed and Shadow View would last for X amount of casts on pretty much all of your jewelry for that one. Now, back to Cold Clip. The reason Cold Clip, the reason you don't need Freeze or anything on your armor now is because you have Cold Clip. And with Cold Clip, what you do is you take a point in Cold Imbuement, Enhanced Cold Imbuement, and Blended Cold Imbuement. So now you're going to get all of these benefits whenever you puncture. and that's going to chill and freeze your enemies. So you don't need those anymore. Chill, freeze. That's every time you puncture. And then every third puncture, you're going to poison imbue. And then you're going to trigger noxious ice, which is 35% multiplicative additional poison damage to frozen enemies. So your enemies are going to be frozen from cold clip, and then you're going to give 35%, 20, that's 40, it's 55% there. Multiplicative damage, and that's when your numbers really start going up. All these other ones are just drops in the bucket. They're additive damage, but when you get that multiplicative damage, that's when things start going into the millions and the billions. And then again here with creeping death, you deal 28.5 up to 30% multiplicative increased damage over time to enemies for each different crowd control effect they are afflicted by. So that means you will get 30% for every stunned, if an enemy is stunned, if an enemy is frozen, if an enemy is chilled, if they're slowed, if they're immobilized, etc., etc. You're going to get 30% for each different one of those. 30% increases damage over time, which again synergizes well with the close quarters combat. So your current damage increase on the close quarters combat is 64% multiplicative. You're doing a hell of a lot of damage. So yeah, that covers the gear. I'll give you obviously you're going to take combo points. I'm going to give you a little bit more of a rundown on the skills, and then I'll just kind of hover over the Paragon board. It's a right. So for the skills, you got Puncture, you got Enhanced Puncture, you got Fundamental Puncture. That's a given. You get the 3 blades, the vulnerable, bada bing, bada boom. You know, that's a given. When you use Puncture, that's what you use. Now, Flurry, big changes here. So unleash a flurry of stabs and slashes, striking enemies in front of you 4 times and dealing extra damage. I'm pretty sure the damage has changed. And then Enhanced Flurry also applies vulnerable now, and deals 1% increased damage for 5 seconds after hitting a vulnerable enemy, up to 50% multiplicative. So huge damage boost there. And then this one is my favorite. Casting Flurry dashes you to the target and heals 10% of your maximum life. So you're healing 10% of your maximum life every time that you cast this skill, which is, you know, synergizing with siphoning strikes and a couple other things. But on top of that, it's like another mobility skill. So you're dashing, you have instant dash, or infinite dash, I should say, as long as you have a target. Now, you're still going to take dash because you need the mobility, and you're still going to take shadow step, but not just for the mobility anymore, or the increased movement speed and whatnot. The biggest reason, or one of the additional reasons, I should say, for taking shadow step now is methodical shadow step gives you an additional 20% damage reduction for 3 seconds. So you have about an 8-second cooldown, 9-second cooldown. You dash in, you're going to have 3 seconds. You're going to have 6 seconds of downtime. You're going to have about 33% uptime of methodical shadow step with an additional 20% damage reduction. So then you have your rugged reactive defense, also your sturdy and your siphoning strikes. So don't forget those. And you're still going to take dash, 1 in this unstable elixirs, and 1 in trick attacks. You can temper things on to get more into these if you'd like, but like I was saying earlier, you got a lot of points that you have to stretch around, so it's kind of hard. You're taking 2 imbuements, which you don't traditionally do, but in my opinion, it's worth it when you're considering the freeze and the chill that you're getting from cold clip. So then you're going to take Dark Shroud, but you're not going to equip it because you're going to have Umbros to equip it for you, and you're going to take as many points into it as you can afford, as many points as you can get from gear, and you're going to take Subverting Dark Shroud to heal you for your maximum life when the Dark Shroud is removed. And then you're going to take 3 to exploit, 3 to malice. Now here is where I differ with some people. A lot of people use caltrips, mostly because it freezes and chills enemies. So it chills them. So that is no longer necessary since you're going to be chilling them with cold clip already. So what I decided to do is take poison trap, enhanced poison trap, and then subverting poison trap, which says you deal 15% multiplicative increased poison damage to enemies standing inside your poison trap. So this helps, especially in boss fights. You're doing a lot of poison damage, especially with the Andariels, and when that monster or that pack is standing inside the poison trap, especially if you lay a few and you set up the battlefield before, you're going to get that 15% multiplicative damage. So down the shadow imbuement, you're going to take that enhanced with mixed, and then you're going to take 3 to deadly venom, 3 to debilitating toxins, and honestly, you really want to try to probably get alchemical advantage too. This is a new one where you get increased attack speed, lucky hit chance, and the max bonus there. But yeah, so like I said, it's hard. You got to stretch your points around, but it's definitely a great build. And somebody smarter than I is going to come along and perfect this. But this is just what I think about it and how my experience has been so far. So on to the cold imbuement. I already went over this. You're going to take blended cold imbuement so you can chill and freeze your enemies all the time, every time you cast a basic skill, or every time it procs. Frigid finesse, obviously you're going to do that for the 25% multiplicative increased damage to chilled enemies, because now all your enemies are going to be chilled, or most of them. You're going to take 1 in innervation, and at least one in an alchemist fortune. You could also kind of move this, because you're really doing it for the lucky hit chance. You could take this and stick it over there, so then you're getting lucky hit chance and attack speed. Might be able to do it that way. That's a 15% or a 10% chance attack speed and lucky hit chance for 8 seconds. Yeah, so that's actually probably the better choice over innervation and innervation and alchemist fortune. 1 to adrenaline rush. Honestly, I think I might be able, if I didn't need haste, I'd probably take away from that too, but haste definitely gives you that big movement speed and attack speed bonus, so you want to try to max that out, but at least 2 points. And then last but not least, we've already discussed this a few times, close quarters combat is your key passive. On to the Paragon board. So here's my starter with control. I go up here and take exploit weakness right off the bat, which by the way is bugged right now in the PTR. It is killing everything on the screen, but it's not supposed to kill elites. And what it says is hitting a vulnerable enemy has up to 45% chance to increase your damage by 1% multiplicative for 25 seconds, up to 50%. So at 50 stacks, this bonus resets and you execute all nearby non-elite enemies. Right now, it is killing elites as well, but even without the elites, it is still a huge help. Then you just kill their mobs and you have to worry about the elites. So as far as the glyph here, we're using Canny, and I will let you guys take a look at how I pathed. And then you guys can decide for yourself which way you want to go. Over this side, I took Cheap Shot along with Fluidity, and I pathed up here, damage reduction, pathed over to Deadly Ambush, and took Tracker here. Damage to trap. A lot of these are just additive damage or little bonuses that don't matter as much anymore. What you're really looking for is the multiplicative damage on the nodes, and then the bonuses from the glyphs. So over here, we're taking Tricks of the Trade. This gives you a pretty good bonus. This used to be a little bit more conditional, and now it's your marksman skill grants your cutthroat skills 25 and vice versa for 8 seconds. So if you're using Puncture or Heartseeker and then you're using Flurry, you're going to have those two constantly bouncing back and forth off each other, giving you that 25% increase to your damage. And the chip glyph here, and that gives you the physical damage, increased damage an enemy takes from you by 1% up to 10% for 15 seconds. So that's that. I'll let you guys take a look at this. And then up here, I take Eldritch Bounty and take Bane for the glyph. And I'll let you take a look at how I did this. Took a resistance because I was struggling there. But overall, yeah, that's it. So pretty good build. I'll do a quick presentation and kill some stuff for you. Let's just do a tier 90. Let's do a tier 99. I'm gonna die the first time for the boss. Anybody watching this that isn't familiar with the PTR bug, the boss the first time has like double HP, and if it kills you and you come back, it has the proper amount of HP for the changes that are going to be going into Season 5. So I might try to kill him anyway, but I will probably just let him kill me and go from there. As you can see, everything just kind of melts. One key thing you want to do is make sure you're using that shadow step. Don't save it. Don't save it for get out of jail free, because you got that flurry to help you move around now. You got a dash still on your bar, but the shadow step, when you go into a pack, basically you want a shadow step because you're going to get that 20% damage reduction, and especially if it's, you know, a pack full of elites, you want to take that. You definitely want to take advantage of that damage reduction. And you can see there that execute is just boom, boom, boom. But even if it doesn't do the elites, it's still a huge help, because then I'd have 2 or 3 monsters left to kill. You can see punctures, freezing, chilling, shattering, poisoning. He's doing everything. That was just puncture. I didn't hit another button except for puncture there. No funky jumping backwards with cow traps. No need to temper on chance to freeze. You can focus on chance to slow, which applies to bosses. Just kill me. All right. Now this will be a real representation of what the pit is going to look like when Season 5 hits. So you gotta die once. So now he's standing in that poison trap. He's taking extra damage. Got the pestilent points, poisoning damage underneath of them. That's giving even more. I come back in, get my extra little damage reduction, and bam. That's that. As you can see, that was like, you know, 10, 15, 30 seconds maybe. Definitely an S plus tier class or build in my opinion. So I would definitely invest some time and check it out when the season starts, and wish you all luck. And yeah, good luck, have fun, peace.